Prairie Avenue, Chicago, May 26, 1896. The gas lamps on the street are down to their midnight idle and every brownstone on the block has gone dark. Every brownstone except one. Cormac Finley is 22 years old, lying awake in the hayloft above Page's stable since 11, listening to the horses breathe below him. He has known what he's going to do since Tuesday. He has simply been waiting for midnight. The Duryea Motor Wagon sits in the carriage house 30 feet away. Arrived 3 weeks ago from Springfield, Massachusetts, smelling of hot metal and petroleum and something sweet underneath, like burned sugar. The rest of Chicago is horse country in 1896. Cobblestones, manure, the iron ring of horseshoe on stone. But in Page's carriage house, something has arrived that doesn't belong to that world, and everyone on the street can feel it. Cormac has spent 3 weeks studying the machine through the gap in the carriage house doors, memorizing the levers and cranks. He is not afraid of the Duryea. He is afraid of how badly he wants to drive it. The Duryea's 2-cylinder engine produces 4 horsepower. In 1896, the difference between standing still and moving through a city at 18 miles an hour. The tiller sits where a steering wheel won't exist for another decade. At 12:30, the light in Page's third-floor study goes dark. The street settles into the kind of silence that only exists between midnight and 4 in the morning, when you can hear a gas lamp hiss from half a block away. Prairie Avenue runs straight and flat from the lake to the stockyards, and at midnight in May it is empty in both directions. The only movement is a stray dog working the gutter 3 blocks south. Cormac comes down from the hayloft without a sound. The horses don't stir. He has managed them long enough that his presence at night means nothing alarming. He crosses the courtyard to the carriage house and lifts the latch. The carriage house smells stronger in the closed dark, petroleum and grease. Cormac locates the hand crank at the front of the Duryea by touch and stands with his hand around it listening to the house. The crank takes more force than he expected. On the third pull, the engine catches, sputters, and settles into a sound like nothing Cormac has heard before. A mechanical heartbeat, irregular and alive. The horses react immediately. Both geldings throw their heads and shuffle backward, nostrils wide, reading the engine smell as something evolution gave them no categories for. Cormac has maybe 2 minutes before someone in the house hears the noise. Before we follow Cormac any further, if this is the kind of story you've been looking for, subscribe to the channel. Every video here is built around a real car, a real road, and a life that changed somewhere on the asphalt. No filler. If that matters to you, well, the subscribe button is how you tell us. And leave a comment. If you had been standing on Prairie Avenue at midnight in 1896 and saw that machine sitting unguarded in a dark carriage house, would you have done what Cormac did? Now, back to Cormac in the Duryea. He climbs onto the seat, takes the tiller in both hands, and releases the brake. The Duryea rolls forward on its momentum, and the night air hits Cormac across the face. Cold for May, carrying the smell of the lake 3 blocks east. Prairie Avenue opens in front of him, flat and empty and lit at intervals by the gas lamps lining the curb. He engages the forward gear. The chain drive catches. The rear wheels find the cobblestone, and the machine moves. Cormac's hands on the tiller are shaking. The vibration of the engine comes up through the frame and into his palms. A constant mechanical tremor that on first exposure feels like the machine is trying to communicate something. Prairie Avenue's gas lamps pass overhead in a rhythm he has never felt from a horse's back. Evenly spaced, perfectly timed, turning the cobblestones gold, then dark in alternation. At 12 miles an hour, this city looks like a place he has never been. He turns north onto Michigan Avenue. The road widens. Lake Michigan appears on his right, a wall of black water with no visible edge. Cormac opens the throttle, and the Duryea climbs from 12 miles an hour to 16. Michigan Avenue in May of 1896 on a clear night with nothing moving in either direction. The lake on one side, the darkened storefronts on the other, and one machine running north at 16 miles an hour. Cormac has no goggles. The wind tears at his eyes in his open collar at 16 miles an hour. He squints into it and holds the tiller and watches the road the way you watch something you are afraid will vanish if you look away. The acetylene lamp at the front of the Duryea throws a cone of yellow light about 15 feet ahead, barely enough to see the road, but enough to see the road is clear. Prairie Avenue is already out of sight behind him. The south branch of the Chicago River crosses under the road at Van Buren Street, and Cormac slows for the bridge. The wooden planks rattle under the tires in a way that makes him grip the tiller harder until the cobblestone returns. He is north of the river now, in the loop, passing the shuttered storefronts of State Street, dry goods, haberdashers, a pharmacy with a dark green awning. The city looks different at 16 miles an hour, larger and smaller at the same time. He takes a right toward the lakeshore, and the smell of the water comes in stronger. Cold and mineral, coming off Lake Michigan in the spring dark, like a reminder that the city is newer than the lake by several orders of magnitude. The engine has found its rhythm. The two-cylinder opposed configuration means almost no vibration at steady speed. Just a low pulse Cormac can feel more than hear, traveling through the wooden seat and into his spine. The lakefront path runs north along the water's edge with almost no grade, and the Duryea responds the way Cormac has seen horses respond to open fields, a release in the frame, a willingness to go faster that doesn't require asking. He opens the throttle all the way. The Duryea reaches 18 miles an hour, its mechanical ceiling. The fastest it will go, and holds there. No horse has ever carried Cormac at 18 miles an hour in the dark, and no horse ever will again. The Chicago Water Tower passes on his left, limestone Gothic, completed in 1869, one of the only structures to survive the Great Fire. He doesn't know its history yet. He only knows it is enormous and pale in the dark, and standing there the way old things stand, like they plan to outlast everything. He enters the darkness of Lincoln Park. The gas lamps stop here, and the road narrows under elms, and the city drops away on all sides. The lake is close enough to hear. The engine runs steadily under the trees, indifferent to the silence around it. Cormac pulls the throttle back and lets the Duryea roll to a stop in the park road. He sets the brake and sits for a moment without moving. Then he cuts the engine. The silence comes in immediately, total, clean surrounding. He climbs down and stands beside the Duryea in the dark. The engine block is warm against his hand when he lays it flat on the casing. Warm the way a working animal is warm, not the way metal is supposed to be warm. The lake sound comes through the trees from the east. Cormac stands with his hand on the engine and understands something he will carry for the rest of his life, that the world is larger than the distance a horse can cover in a day, and that he has just found the door. He cranks the engine again. It catches on the second pull. The sound comes back into the park like something that has no business being there, mechanical, certain, moving forward. He climbs back onto the seat and turns the Duryea south. Michigan Avenue opens up again under the gas lamps as he turns south. The machine runs better going back. The engine warmed through now, the chain drive settled, the tiller responding more precisely. 2:30 in the morning. He has time. The Duryea's speed indicator is a simple mechanical gauge. No glass, just a marked plate and a pointer arm. Past 18, there is no marking. Cormac has reached the edge of the machine's language. He doesn't push further. He crosses the Chicago River again at Van Buren, the wooden bridge planks rattling the same way they rattled going north. The river below is black and still. The city on both sides of it is sleeping without any awareness of what is passing over the water. State Street is exactly as he left it. Every awning down, every door dark. A cat crosses from one doorway to another and stops to watch the machine go past. It is the only witness. Prairie Avenue appears ahead of him in the gas lamp intervals. The same brownstones, the same dark windows, the same silence. He eases the throttle back and lets the machine coast. The engine drops to idle. He is home in the only sense that matters tonight. He turns into the Page courtyard at walking speed. The cobblestones here are set closer than the street, and the machine moves over them with a lower, ever tighter sound. The carriage house doors are exactly as he left them, open just wide enough. He parks the Duryea in the exact position he found it, right wheel against the back wall chalk line where Page's coachman marks the parking position. It takes him 3 adjustments to get it precise. He needs it precise. He shuts the engine down. The sound stops between one instant and the next. The mechanical heartbeat that has carried him 6 miles north and 6 miles back simply ceases. And the carriage house is silent in a way it wasn't before the machine arrived. Cormac pulls the carriage house doors closed behind him and sets the latch the way he found it. The courtyard is empty. The horses have settled back down. He can hear them breathing through the stable wall. Nothing moved in the house. He is back in the hayloft by 3:15. The straw smells the same as it did 2 hours ago. The horses are quiet. He lies on his back and looks at the ceiling rafters and feels for the first time in his life like a man who has been somewhere. The sky over Prairie Avenue turns from black to deep gray at 5:15, and then to the specific pale blue that belongs only to the hour before a clear May morning. The carriage house sits undisturbed. The street is still empty. At 6:30, Harrison Page walks down the back stairs to check on the Duryea, his daily habit since delivery. He sees the fuel sight glass first. It is lower than he left it. He stands very still and looks at the machine for a long time. He crouches beside the engine block and touches it with the back of his hand. Still warm. He checks the carriage house doors and sees they have been reset. Not quite the way he leaves them. The left door a fraction wider. He doesn't go to the stable. The Chicago Tribune runs 4 paragraphs on page 4 2 days later. No arrest, no suspect identified. The car was recovered intact. The brief carries one remarkable sentence. It describes the theft as the first automobile theft in the history of the United States of America. Cormac gives his 2 weeks' notice on a Thursday. I'm 9 days after the ride. He tells the Page House steward he has family in Omaha. This is not entirely false. He works out the full 2 weeks with complete professionalism and takes nothing from the property that is not his. He buys a single ticket on the Union Pacific to Omaha on a Saturday morning in June. The platform at Union Station smells of coal smoke and fried meat from the concessions. He carries one bag. He doesn't look back at Chicago once the train begins to move. The Duryea Motor Wagon remained in the Page carriage house until 1900, when it was sold to a private collector in Indianapolis for $30. What became of it after that is not recorded. Cormac Finley reached Omaha in good health, and no further record of him exists in the Chicago city directories after June of 1896. The road north along Lake Michigan still runs. At 18 miles an hour in the dark of 1896, yet it was entirely his. And nothing that came after ever changed that. If these road stories are what you want to keep watching, subscribe to the channel. More cars, more roads, more lives lived behind a steering wheel that meant something. And if you ever drove a car like this or knew someone who did, tell us in the comments. What car, what road, where it took you. The cars remember everything, so do the people who drove them.